NSFW, what's the accidentally hottest thing done by someone who wasn't intending to turn you on? There was a guy I knew liked me, but had no experience with women and was as much terrified of me as he was interested. I hugged him, and he was so ungodly. Obviously nervous. His hands were shaking and I could practically feel his panicked heartbeat. And the Vagina says, yes, this is good to me. Final year of uni. Doing a group project presentation. One of our group members was this really cool, pretty Swedish exchange student. We were sitting on the sidelines as one of our other group members was presenting. She leans over and starts whispering Swedish things in my ear. Holy shit. I turned to look at her and she blushes and giggled and apologized, saying she got the wrong language. We had a lot of Swedish students in the course, so they spoke it often among themselves. She then repeats herself in English. But I wasn't listening because I was too focused on the fact that I was about to stand up in front of a panel of industry professionals with a semi. I was at a neighborhood concert one time and this girl was making her way up to the front while the masses of people were pushing and kicking each other. This very cute girl stopped to talk to me to see what's up, and at that moment, everyone decided to sandwich together. So my body was pressed against her tightly. She was directly in front of me, facing me, and she was pretty humorous too because while we were literally face to face she said nice weather we're having. Never saw her again, but I still think about her. My friend's sister jokingly told me, if you don't stop being naughty I'm going to have to whip you. I didn't know someone I wasn't infatuated with could make me blush for a fetish I don't even like. I was holding my girlfriend's 1-year-old niece last week when the little girl rubbed her eyes and snuggled into my chest. I heard my girlfriend, barely audible, say oh my god, under her breath. We ducked so hard that night. I'm just gonna assume you mean your girlfriend. My wife doesn't understand how much I like when she runs her hands through my hair. My co-worker laid his head on my lap on a long car trip home from the beach. Every minute or so he'd ever so slightly just twitch his fingers in a tiny caress of my knee. Oh my god. I'd say he knew what he was doing. 9 years ago, my friend and I were walking through a park in a snowstorm one night. We began throwing snowballs and getting really into it when he threw me into a snowbank. That's probably when I began to actually notice him. We wrestled together all winter, and I still didn't really think about him so early. Finally, in February, I was at his house and the snow was 3 feet deep and coming down in a blizzard. So I was just going to sleep on the couch for the umpteenth time when we began wrestling again. One thing led to another, and I didn't sleep on the couch. We've been married for 6 years now. Being forceful is a huge turn on for me. Halloween party. Co-worker went a slave lair. At one point her boyfriend couldn't hear what she was saying, so he gently tugged on her chain to reel her in closer. Needless to say, it moved a little. Edit. Waitress spilled water on my lap and dabbed my shorts with a towel for a good 30 seconds. She got a good tip that night. That's strange. The stain appears to be getting bigger. A girl at work told me to kneel down and tie her shoe. I'm 6'4" and she's 5'7". I couldn't stand up immediately afterwards. Good boy. My wife knew she was wearing a blazer the next day for a meeting, but couldn't decide what skirt. So she was going back and forth to the closet for different skirts to see in the mirror, but the whole time only wearing the blazer and panties. SZS combination ever. When dudes take off a sweater and their shirt rides up a little with it. Degrees. Edit. Okay, I get it. You're all hairy fatties apparently. Now you can stop leaving comments about it. I'm a sucker for accents. Had a British girl come into my work for a few days in a row and every time she spoke I melted. I swear. If she had told me to go with her on a killing spree, I'd have gone. My dad has spent so much time in the UK on business he has a sixth sense for the accents. Not only can he tell what country you're from but what specific region you're from as well. He met this guy at a party with a UK accent he couldn't place. He finally went up and asked him where he was from. The guy leaned in and said, "I'm from Richmond, Virginia." This is a speech impediment. He was not at all shy about pretending he was from the UK because girls loved it so much. When girls hear a compliment and are giddy yet confident at the same time. Usually a quick shrug, a giggle and a smile. Oh, stop it. You know when a guy stretches his arms up and his shirt pulls up and reveals his stomach? Kinda the reverse for me. In a couple of my classes I would braid the hair of whichever girl was sitting in front of me. I made sure to ask that they were cool with it first. Turns out, after the first couple times of me doing this, that there was a little group that always talked about getting their hair braided, and they would have little arguments to find out who got to sit in front of me. Kinda cool, I guess. I mean, I just like braiding hair. I wake up to my girlfriend trying to fit her very nice ass into her jeans almost every day. Anyone who whispers in my ear, duck, that gets me. In high school I had female friend that was homeschooled and worked at a donut shop. My parents both worked the night shift, so I basically had the house to myself after school. She would come over smelling like donuts every day. Edit. Wow, this blew up bigger than expected. No, I'm not a cop now. I'm not fat. A little fluffy since my knee surgery, but I still run regularly. And yeah, I do sometimes get aroused by the smell of donuts. But seriously, who doesn't? Yes, I did give her my Boston creme. I'm not sure on the flavor though. A friend of mine was too warm, so he unbuttoned one button from his shirt and I could see his chest hair and it was ducking unacceptably hot. I cut my finger on a beer bottle at a party. This girl casually walks by, stops and sucks the end of my finger. Without saying anything, walks away. That happened 25 years ago and I still think about her all the time. And you just let her walk away? You didn't go after her saying, "Oh man, I also cut my penis"? I was being a bit bossy to one of my female friends. When I asked her to go get dressed to go outside, she answered yes. Daddy in a voice meant to point out my pushiness. It had a different effect. I was on spring break a few years ago staying in this hostel with groups of travelers from all over the world. And one night as a group of us were sitting on the patio drinking and chatting about stuff, this hot dude from, I think, Australia, maybe, laughed at something his friend said and I realized he had the deepest chocolatist voice I had ever heard. Bam. Right to the clit. I have a co-worker whom I usually spend breaks with smoking. We were outside last week and she was ranting about some stupid tea that went down over in her side of the office. We work in different departments. Anyhow, she ended up getting pretty upset, and while a result thought has never crossed my mind involving her before, there was something about the way she was yelling and the look on her face that for some reason made me want to take her right then and there. Can't explain it and haven't had a similar thought since. I couldn't even look at her, I just stammered, "I have to go," and went back inside. Unrelated but honorable mention. I used to be a nude model for art classes back when I was in school. One time a girl drew my DCK really nice. That was cool. Italian exchange student at my school. He started speaking Italian on the phone to a friend who had called. And I absolutely melted. Anyone who can casually fluently speak 2 languages automatically turns me on a little, and I have no idea why. Edit. Fantasy languages count. Bonus points if it's from Doctor Who, Harry Potter or Stargate. All languages count, even the not pretty ones, because what's attractive is the intelligence behind it. At least for me. Computer coding doesn't count. But is definitely extremely impressive, as I have trouble turning on a computer even if I'm in my best lingerie. Was at work. And I had this co-worker who was pretty hot, but I had a boyfriend at the time so I never pursued him. I was going to take out the trash and with this ducking smirk on his face he told me, "Good girl." Sploosh. Right in the submissive fetish. I watched one of my good friends from high school in a play. He was the villain and had this rough relationship with a prostitute who hated him. There wasn't any violence on stage or anything. But the choreography got me so hot and bothered. I later fooled around with him just because of that scene. If a guy is explaining something to me, sounding all intelligent and stuff, and not realizing that I'm getting wet while watching his lips move, I don't know. I really like intelligent men. May I explain to you the differences in searching algorithms? In 7th grade, I had a crush on a girl that was very hostile towards everyone. And just all around difficult to get along with. She would frequently hit, slap, punch, scream at, and otherwise harm me and other people. Turns out that since that point, I like being dominated by women. I like when they're in control and use me for their pleasure and their own benefit. Or tease me. Or delay my gratification. I told her this. We were and still are really close. So a conversation like this isn't unusual. And she said, oh. Really? Well, I have the opposite problem. And she winked. Dude. A really tall co-worker was reaching for something in front of me. And pretty much had me leaning over a table with him behind me. Insta lady boner. My husband's glasses. We have both worn contacts for most of our lives. And when we've bought glasses, it's always been the cheapest pair. Since we don't wear them often enough to care, plus, you know, poor. We finally bought ourselves new glasses. And I swear my husband has never been S-zier. He cut his naturally curly hair short. And with the glasses, he looks like Clark Kent. I'm totally digging the look. One time I was drinking with one of my best friends and prior to this they had never ever been anything sexual between us. I wasn't even attracted to him. He was pretty awkward. Slightly chubby. And on top of it, a good handful of inches shorter than me. He ends up giving me a back rub. I end up making moans of pleasure. Because it was a really good back rub. One thing led to another. In the morning I was like WTF just happened. Because like I said, never had any sexual feelings towards him. This began a very wild sexual platonic relationship with my best friend that lasted about a year. Hands down the best and kinkiest sex I've had to date. Always except the back rub. Folks. God. Wait until I tell him that he gave me my highest rated comment on top of that. You just gave so many people false hope. I work in a grocery store with lots of university-aged female cashiers and cash office staff. And a very lax stance on uniforms. Lots of yoga pants. My cousin and his GF used to come over to use our pool. Whenever she sunbathed and unhooked her bra back I would marvel at her beautiful, almost nude back. I was 3 years younger. She would turn her head, see me entranced and smile. Once my cousin threw ice water on her back and she jumped. The glimpse of nippage lasted years in my spank bank. About 12 years ago I lived in Utah. A good friend was a rather plain looking, very religious, very repressed Mormon housewife. She came to a Halloween carnival at my kid's school dressed as a witch. It wasn't intended to be a SI witch costume but it was low cut. That in conjunction with the dramatic witch makeup made her hot as hell. It was very jarring to see someone I had never given a second thought dressed that way. I wanted her so bad. I played it cool and tried to not let it show but never saw her the same again. My friend was dropping me off at my place. He was briefly describing to me the mechanics of engines in the driveway. When he got to the functioning of pistons I about lost it. I was walking to lunch from my office and this incredibly beautiful woman, classy as hell, in a really nice, tastefully short and airy dress was jaywalking across the street. A car turned right from the intersection and has to stop while she crossed and the guy decided to honk at her. She stopped dead in front of this guy's car and ducking spit on the hood. Seeing a beautiful, classy woman get so aggressive and disgusting really did it for me. Gave me an absolute verbal smackdown. This was a bloke I knew in college, 16-18. And it was a long-standing pillar of our interaction to bicker and take the PSS. I'd been ribbing him about one thing or another. making the others around us laugh. When he causally laid out a quip that utterly blew any of my insults out of the water. It was just the way he did it, this lazy flick of sarcasm and wit, that had me both laughing and appreciation. Sarcasm, as long as it's not Saru over the top, can definitely be a turn on. Also, I went on a date last night with a girl that I have known for a while. After dinner we go back to her house to watch a movie. She changed out of her pants into shorts. When she comes back down the stairs, she apologizes for looking like a nerd because she had knee-high socks on under her pants and didn't change them. POW. Right in the fetish. She 100% knew what she was doing. My boyfriend and I are in a long-distance relationship. So often we'll just hang out in voice on Discord with nothing to talk about. Kind of like we're hanging out on the sofa together. But 1,500 miles apart. One day he started talking to himself about this project he was coding. And OMG instant sploosh. Ever since then I have to remind myself not to solely objectify him when he's programming. The other day I fell off a longboard and ducked up my knees. My friend's girlfriend started fixing the wound. I completely respect my friend and would never try to get in between him and his girlfriend. But damn, something about her guiding me through the process of fixing the wound. And her being very careful with the wound was incredibly SI. I can't stop thinking about it. Okay. So I was riding in a train with my male best friend. I was sleepy and fell asleep. It was like 3 AM. When I wake up, he fell asleep on my shoulder. I am a short girl, so seeing him slumped over like that just flipped a switch in my head. I fell in love with him then and there and he doesn't know. I burnt my hand at work and she rushed over and iced my hand asking if I was alright. The cute guy at work I was crushing on, I watched him gently put on latex gloves and roll silverware. He's normally a really confident, seemingly put together guy. But that particular shift he messed up and did something that got him in trouble. One of the managers yelled at him. The managers are really aggressive. As he rolled, his eyes were downcast. His freckled cheeks were flushed pink. And his hair had fallen onto his forehead a little bit. Holy shit. I just wanted to kiss him to death then and there. Edit. This thread. Clean up on Almy. I was hanging out with a group of friends at the county fair one day a couple summers back and I had accidentally got an awkward boner. Unfortunately, it was quite obvious. One of the girls I was hanging out with confronted me of my problem and I tried denying this allegations. She then grabbed my crotch to prove me wrong. I'm not sure if she was trying to turn me on by this, but it totally worked. The awkward boner did not go away. She then grabbed my crotch to prove me wrong. I'm not sure if she was trying to turn me on by this. Oh. Duck. Man. What? I'm pretty sure I could cut all the SZOL tension in this chat with a knife. Stop it. This one time a girl accidentally touched my arm for a split second. It was exhilarating. Was playing Scrabble with a friend. One of her friends who I had just met was helping her with words. I played a word and her friend looks me in the eye and with anger in her voice yells "Ducker." I like a girl who takes Scrabble seriously. I have only experienced the reverse of this. Guy I dated in college was joking around with me in his dorm room. Stole my room key and put it in his pocket. I think it was a haha now you have to stay the night joke. This was years ago. We got distracted and I wound up staying a bit longer. And I guess he forgot about it. So when I finally went to leave, he stood to see me out. And I said, "You have something I need," and slipped my hand into his pocket. Took my key back and held it up with a smirk. His stunned reaction is permanently etched in my brain. I guess since I was, and am, a nerd girl and that was my first time, knowingly, inducing an instant boner. In any case, being a socially awkward nerd girl, I just laughed and said goodnight and left him to deal with it himself. Sorry guy. Was at a pool party and a guy with some great abs held onto the edge of the pool to lift himself out. The water ran down his chiseled arms when he came out of the pool. And that's how I found out I'm bisexual. I'm a very large man and I love swimming. I leave the swimming pool very similarly to a beached seal when I try to exit this way. I think it's hot. Not done to me. But what I did to a girl. I was in high school and had a small beard. She thought it was funny to make fun of it and to tug on it randomly. After like the 5th time, I got annoyed and asked her to stop. She responded with why? I said it's just annoying having something on my face tugged on. It's like if I did this I proceed to tug on her earlobe. She immediately gets flustered. So I get confused and just stand there like what? She just goes, oh. Don't do that. It's one of my go spots. So I get kind of turned on after she admitted that. But I then immediately remembered she had a boyfriend who could have broken me in one swing. So like this is super weird but it's happened with my guy best friend. Classmates. Even my manager at work. You know when guys have the quiff and it's like slightly gelled so it stays somewhat in place? Okay, so when a guy is working super hard or is really passionate or into whatever he is doing and like a few pieces of hair from the quiff likely falls into their face. That is the hottest thing ever and if I witness that moment I swear I instantly fall in love. I had to read this 4 times before I realized you weren't talking about vagina farts. An old high school friend had a little sister who loved chopping wood, lumber, not boners. I went over to his house to help set up for a party and his sister was out splitting logs. Again. The lumber. Not boners. I don't know if it was the fact she was a 5'4" 90 lb blonde splitting wood, the lumber. Not boners. In one strike or just her getting sweaty but I've never been so hard. Now it's a boner. Not lumber. Before. Loved when my recent ex would pull her hair out of a bun and it would just drp down. Granted, this was a girl I used to hook up with. But I remember one time we were talking on the phone and I made a comment to the girl about how a number of people who haven't known me a long time think I'm balding because I have a high, not even receding, hairline and a big old forehead. She said, people can think what they think. Matter of fact, I think I'm going to imagine you as a bald old man from now on. And, while joking, I said in a very angry authoritative voice, don't you dare. She just goes, whoa. Like 3 seconds ago I wasn't even a little turned on. But you saying that just turned me on to the point where I'm soaking wet. Driving a car with rolled up sleeves. Ugh. She accidentally shoved a hot curling iron up my ass. Hello Meter. My old friend. You making this thread plus all the replies. I'm disturbingly thin. Met a girl in med school who was amazed she could see so much of my skeletal structure and started touching me while naming each bone. She touched me while displaying her intelligence. Okay. This is extremely niche. But I was rather sick one day back in high school. And this gal I was long distance friends with called me and just talked to me for a while and actually tried to make me feel better via phone call. Now when I'm sick, I have to listen to some ASMR in order to sleep.